Prime Field.
All right, Husky fans, UConn's biggest problem right now isn't talent. It's too much talent. And in a season where minutes are basically a currency, there's one rotation battle that just turned into a full-on chess match. Allie Zebo versus Blanca Quiñonez. One is geometry, spacing, gravity, clean math. The other is chaos, pressure, speed, broken plays, steel storm basketball. So here's the question that matters for March. When it's winning time, does Geno trust the spacer or the disruptor? Let's zoom in on a perfect little 2-game lab sample. January 3rd versus Seton Hall and January 7th versus St. John. Same building, same program, same mission. Two totally different game environments, and what we got was basically an A-B test for the wing minutes. When the game slows down and defenses pack the paint, Ziebell shines. When the game becomes a track meet fueled by turnovers, Quiñonez climbs. This is a rotation story. The rotation isn't static, it's tilting. Seton Hall shows up with a simple idea. Clog the lane, shrink the floor, make UConn win with spacing. And UConn's defense set the tone. Turnovers everywhere. So once you're living in that half-court grind, what becomes priceless? A shooter who changes the shape of the defense. That's where Allie Ziebell enters like a specialist tool. She gives you instant perimeter gravity, a clean answer to paint packing, and that don't help off her fear that stretches the whole defense. And in that Seton Hall game, Ziebell's impact wasn't subtle. She hits for 12, and she's a key spark in that third quarter 20-0 run that basically turns the game into a blowout script. So if you're Geno, you're looking at that like, okay, picked against a defense that wants to suffocate the lane, this is the scalpel. Now fast forward 4 days and the game flips completely. St. John's turns this into chaos fuel. Quick possessions, shaky ball security, and UConn responds with pure havoc. 23 steals in a first quarter that's basically a defensive ambush. And in this environment, what matters more than perfect spacing? Speed, length, disruption, live ball turnovers, transition lanes, scrambles. That's Blanca Quiñonez. She doesn't need the game to be organized to matter. She thrives when it isn't. And the numbers scream it. 14 points, 23 minutes, and the biggest trust signal of the whole week. She plays more than starter KK Arnold, 21 minutes. That's not normal bench usage. That's not freshman cameo. That's rotation core behavior. Meanwhile, Ziebell in this one? 2 points in 18 minutes, because when possessions are exploding into transition and pressure, the value shifts away from set shot geometry and toward two-way chaos control. So if Seton Hall was Ziebell's matchup, St. John's was Quiñonez's statement. Here's the part people miss. This isn't a personal rivalry. It's a philosophy argument. Ziebell's case, spacing is oxygen. If teams pack the paint or zone you up, shooters decide championships. And with her season 3-point efficiency sitting at 45.1%, she's not a shooter, she's a structure. Quiñonez's case, defense manufactures offense. If you can generate steals, rebounds, chaos, and transition points, you don't have to execute every possession. You can win the possession battle. And her minutes rising in a pressure-heavy game is basically Geno saying, I'll live with the adventure, if it creates separation. And that's the key word, trust. Not who's better. Who's trusted for the job. All right, let's tier this rotation battle based on what these two games showed and what it implies for high leverage minutes. Tier 1. High leverage trust. Defense plus closing path. Blanca Quiñonez. This is your rotation riser tier. The proof isn't hype. It's usage. 23 minutes, plus the nuclear trust signal of out-minuting a starter in the St. John's Chaos game. If the game is physical, fast, turnover heavy, or you need stops. She's trending into the closing conversation. Why tier 1? Because she can stay on the floor without needing a perfect offensive role. Defense, transition, rebounds, pressure. She affects outcomes. Tier 2. Matchup weapon, offense, stabilizer, spacing insurance. Allie Ziebell is not falling out of the rotation. She's becoming more clearly defined as a specialist you deploy to unlock a specific type of opponent. Seton Hall packs the paint. She's a solution. Zone looks, help defenders cheating, she punishes it. Why Tier 2? Because her impact is context dependent, and that's not an insult. That's modern roster usage. You don't need 25 minutes nightly from a sniper. You need the right 12 minutes at the right time. Tier 1.5, the incumbent baseline, the standard you must beat. Ashland's shade is the control variable, the steady wing standard. The real squeeze question isn't Ziebell versus Quiñonez only. It's this. If Quiñonez keeps rising into Tier 1 trust, whose high leverage minutes get pressured? That's where shade becomes the reference point, because in March it's not about who's good. It's about who's best for the specific ending of a game. Let's make it simple, because this is where Geno's decisions get loud. If UConn is down 6 late and the defense is sitting in the paint, you can't argue it. Ziebell is your break glass shooter. Her gravity alone can change the possession. If UConn is up 4 late and you need stops, rebounds, and switchability, the trend line points to Quiñonez. She's the type of player that turns a game into a mess for the opponent. And sometimes that's exactly how you protect a lead. So the battle isn't really about bench points. It's about which identity UConn wants available in the last 4 minutes. Bottom line, UConn's wing rotation is turning into a matchup dial. Ziebell gives you geometry and certainty. Quiñonez gives you chaos and ceiling. And the last 2 games showed something clear. The rotation is tilting toward two-way disruption in pressure games. Now I want your take. Be specific. In a tight Elite 8 game, who should be in Geno's closing 5? Ziebell for spacing, or Quiñonez for defense and chaos? And if Quiñonez rises, whose minutes get squeezed?
Prime Field!